So many Zimbabweans were left very confused concerning the recent statement and the press conference that was made by the White House of the US when it was announcing today, the 4th of March, if you've come across the news where it stated something to do with Zimbabwean sanctions rather. So the US has rectified its position or corrected its position regarding the Zimbabwean sanctions. Some people were saying that the US government has just uplifted Zimbabwean sanctions, which is very false. I want you to pay attention and a very closer look to this information that I'm going to share with you. This is the official White House statement coming directly from the White House. And this was made by the council spokesperson of the national security of the US government, which is Adrienne Watson. This is what the secretary had to say regarding this. So this is the first speech that was made. Pay attention to the information. This is the official White House document that was just released today, the 4th of March.
In Zimbabwe, we continue to witness gross abuses of political, economic, and human rights. The targeting of civil society and severe restrictions on political activity have stifled fundamental freedoms, while key actors, including government leaders, have siphoned off public resources for personal gains. These illicit activities support and contribute to a global criminal network of bribery, smuggling, and money laundering that impoverish communities in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, and other parts of the world. In response to new and continuing corruption and serious human rights abuse, the United States is refocusing and elevating its efforts to hold accountable the individuals and entities that are responsible for this exploitation. Today, the United States is employing a new set of tools in Zimbabwe, including the flagship Global Magnitsky sanctions program, to make clear that the egregious behavior of some of the most powerful people and companies in Zimbabwe matches the actions of the worst human rights abusers and corrupt actors globally. Specifically, the Department of the Treasury is designating 3 entities and 11 individuals, including President Emmerson Mnangagwa, Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, Brigadier General Retired Walter Tapfumani, and businessman Thudakwash Tadwari, pursuant to Executive Order 13,818, which builds upon and implements the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act, for their involvement in corruption or serious human rights abuse. These designations build on recent U.S. government actions, including causing U.S. participation in the African Development Bank dialogue and utilizing the Department of State's new visa restriction policy for undermining democracy in Zimbabwe. These steps are concurrent with the termination of the pre-existing Zimbabwe sanctions program that began in March 2003 and expanded on in subsequent orders. Actions to retire the previous sanctions program and designate key actors under the Global Magnitsky sanctions program are part of an ongoing effort to ensure we are promoting accountability for serious human rights abuse and corruption in a targeted and strategic manner. Sanctions on these individuals and entities do not represent sanctions on Zimbabwe or its public. The administration reaffirms its commitment to work with the people of Zimbabwe, will continue to robustly support civil society, human rights defenders, and independent media to promote values consistent with the Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act of 2001, and take additional measures to hold accountable those who deny Zimbabweans the democratic freedoms and good governance they deserve.
Right, so this was the first announcement in the statement from the U.S. National Secretary or Council spokesperson. But this is where people got it all confused because they were quoting this statement where it was said that the actions to retire the previous sanctions program. So many people thought as if the government of US was uplifting the sanctions to dismiss these sanctions. But if you were to listen closely to what they said this new set of sanctions or this new set of orders they mentioned that they are just in concurrent with termination of the pre-existing Zimbabwean sanctions. So this is just a reaffirmation, like what they said, meaning to say they're just strengthening what they've already set aside as the sanctions. But what they are saying here is that this is not going to affect the general public according to their statement. So they're not targeting the public as a country, but rather they're targeting individuals as specified here that the most influential people in Zimbabwe, which includes the president's vice president as well, and the other cabal that they work together with that form the powerful and political part of the Zimbabwean government. So these are the targeted individuals that the US government is going on to reaffirm the sanctions against, but not the general public. This is another clarity as well. If you can pay attention as well to the second statement that was made, this is also the official government of the US Department of State. The first one was coming from the White House itself, and then this is coming from the US Department of State. These are all official documents that are available for you to also go through if you haven't come across them. This was released today as well, the 4th of March. And listen closely, this was made, it's a press statement that was made by Anthony J. Blinken, the Secretary of State. I could have just cut the clip from the news and just paste it here, but due to some copyright restrictions, I couldn't do that. But I can only share with you this official guideline so you can also understand yourself and try to assimilate the information and analyze or interpret what it says. So this is what Anthony J. Blinken had to say, the Secretary of State of the US government, regarding these sanctions as well today, the 4th of March. Pay attention as well.
The United States is today designating 11 Zimbabwean individuals and free entities, including President Emmerson Mnangagwa, under the Global Magnitsky sanctions program for their connection to corruption or serious human rights abuses. These designations are part of a stronger, more targeted sanctions policy towards Zimbabwe the United States is implementing following President Biden's approval of a new executive order terminating the Zimbabwe sanctions program that had been in effect since 2003. We continue to have concerns regarding serious cases of corruption and human rights abuse in Zimbabwe. Key individuals, including members of the Government of Zimbabwe, bear responsibility for these actions, including the looting of government coffers that rob Zimbabweans of public resources. Multiple cases of abductions, physical abuse, and unlawful killing have left citizens living in fear. The United States is committed to ensuring our sanctions are relevant, timely, and targeted against those most closely connected to corruption and human rights abuses. We continue to urge the government of Zimbabwe to move toward more open and democratic governance, including addressing corruption and protecting human rights, so all Zimbabweans can prosper. The Department of the Treasury designations were taken pursuant to Executive Order 13,818, which builds upon and implements the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act and targets perpetrators of serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world. For more information on today's actions, see the White House announcement and Treasury's press release.
Right, so this was just some clarity as well coming from Anthony J. Blinken, which is the Secretary of State. So if you have analyzed the news yourself, these are all official documents coming from the White House itself. And if you were someone who was really paying attention and could interpret properly the information, this is not an uplifting of pre-existing Zimbabwean sanctions. The US was just reaffirming the sanctions it has already given these individuals that form the Zimbabwean government. So it was clarifying itself to say that the US is not really targeting the general public. They are not included as part of these sanctions. But however, common sense tells you that if these are the powerful people who are being targeted, obviously it is the government itself and the whole nation which is affected. There's no way it is only just going to affect certain individuals, but the whole people as a whole. So this was just the official guideline, just to clarify what people were just communicating as misinformation to say that the US has uplifted sanctions. This is not true from what we've just seen. They have not uplifted any sanctions. Share with others as well so they may have the same clarity if they have not really come across these same documents. I'll leave the link on my YouTube channel so you can also access the documents, and you can also go through those documents yourself so you can understand the position of where this is going.